Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, welcome everybody. I am George Armistead and this is Life List, a birding podcast. And today I am flying solo, except that I have two guests here from a well-known nonprofit with a great mission based mostly in Ecuador, the Jocotoco Foundation, whose primary goal is to protect and restore wildlife habitat from Amazon rainforests up to high Andean Paramos, into the wet Chocó and the dry Tumbes, and across the ocean to the Galapagos and even on up to Cocos Island. We have two friends from Jocotoco here today. We have Jean Rose, who's an avid birder with a life list now topping 1,400. He's from Buffalo, New York, has a master's in urban planning from University of Buffalo, became the director of Jocotoco U.S. in 2023. Before that, he was deputy director of the Western New York Land Conservancy and a land trust in the Buffalo Niagara region of upstate New York for nearly 11 years. Between 2010 and 2012, he served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Puebla, Mexico, working for the federal environmental agency Semarnat. I'll confirm if I pronounce that correctly later, on conservation projects. During graduate school and directly afterwards, Jean studied and taught at the Monteverde Institute in Costa Rica, supporting communities in their effort to protect cloud forest reserves. Welcome, Jean. Good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, George. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Also, we have your colleague, Renato Perez Loyola, who has a PhD in tourism economics, holds a bachelor's degree from Purdue University, a master's from Beijing University, and a PhD from Dalian University of Technology. Renato, you could use a couple more degrees. Originally from the Galapagos Islands, where he currently resides, Renato serves as the operations coordinator for the Jocotoco Conservation Foundation. He supports all projects within the Galapagos program, managing grant proposals, reporting, and logistical aspects, including coordinating the purchase and transportation of essential conservation materials, such as bait and camera traps, from the USA to Floriana Island. Renato plays a key role in over 30 projects, including initiatives within the Galapagos Marine Reserve, the Galapagos National Park, and invasive species control in Cocos National Park, Costa Rica. Renato, good to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, George. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, this is fun. We don't often really find ourselves having the opportunity to talk with the soldiers on the ground that are doing the work, the conservation work. You guys have been doing good work for a long time now, and focused largely in Ecuador, but even outside of Ecuador. Jean, maybe you want to give folks a little bit more of an overview on what Jocotoco's all about.
Sure. Yeah. So Jocotoco is an NGO. It's a not-for-profit. It's a conservation organization. It's focused. It's centered in Ecuador. And you'll see it's spelled with a J, like Jocotoco, but it's Spanish, so it's pronounced with an H, Jocotoco. The foundation has been around for 25 years. In fact, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary last month in New York City. We were in the Centurion Club of One Vanderbilt, a very, very swanky fancy place.
Quite a view.
Yeah,
quite a view from
view.
Up there.
We had a view overlooking the Chrysler Building. So we were above the Chrysler Building looking down. At one point, we were thinking about having ice cubes with our logo laser engraved on them, but we decided that was a little bit decadent, so we didn't do that. It was an awesome event. We had 100 or so people there, a lot of our longtime family members, supporters, community. It was really cool. So Jocotoco was founded 25 years ago when an ornithologist and a group of ornithologists, but Bob Ridgely, who had written the book about birds of Ecuador, heard they were walking in a southern cloud forest in Ecuador, so high mountain cloud forest. They heard a song that they didn't recognize. They knew it was a bird, didn't know what kind of bird it was. They walked closer through this cloud forest. Eventually, they saw this bird pop up through the mist on this branch. right in front of them, it was this large antpitta. It was an antpitta no one had ever seen before. And they called it the Jocotoco Antpitta because that's what the people who lived there, had seen it, didn't realize it was not known outside of their community. And so now that's called the Jocotoco Antpitta. The people, Bob Ridgely included, they realized that the land around that bird was quickly being deforested. So this was a high cloud forest. Everything was getting cut down around it. So they put their money together. They put their work together to buy that land, to create the reserve, to protect that forest. It's called Tapichalaka. There's now a great lodge there that you can visit, and we've been expanding that reserve ever since. 25 years later, we have 18 reserves. We have protected 100,000 acres of land. We cooperatively manage another 188,000 acres of protected forests. We work in the oceans, in the Galapagos. We helped establish and then create a management plan for a new marine reserve that connects the Galapagos to Cocos Island in Costa Rica. We do all sorts of work on the Galapagos with seabirds, with coral, with reintroducing species that have disappeared. And what we're realizing now, too, is not just a reserve system that we're trying to create. We're trying to do landscape scale conservation, connect, protect, buffer national parks, our reserves, so we can create these corridors across landscapes where plants and animals can, move around, can recolonize where they've disappeared, and can survive in the face of climate change. And so our vision for the future is creating these large networks of conservation areas across Ecuador and beyond.
Nice. And you guys you say you have 18 reserves, is that right, within Ecuador?
Yep, all within Ecuador. Andes, Amazon, Chocó, Tumbes, on the Galapagos itself.
And you have 6 lodges, it looks like, based at some of those. Do I have that correct?
I think it's 5 lodges, and 2 or 3 several other reserves that are open to the public for visits. 5 lodges where you can actually stay. And they're gorgeous lodges. One at Tapichalaka, where we found the Jocotoco Antpitta. I mean, it's at Buenaventura, which is this cloud forest, but also a little bit hotter and humid. I've spent a few nights in a lot of these lodges, and they're kind of the most pleasant nights I've experienced in the last 10 years, just listening to the sounds of nature and rain and owls, frogs, and insects. But yes.
Yeah, I was telling you guys a little bit beforehand that I've not really done much in mainland Ecuador. I have I've known about Jocotoco since the start because I remember I was working at the Academy of Natural Sciences when that bird was discovered, and it just set the whole ornithology department ablaze. Everybody was going crazy. Bob Ridgely was there then, Doug Wexler as well, and a number of others that were involved and still are involved at Jocotoco. And man, it got the juices flowing for just wanting to really get into the tropics and do some Andean birding, and made you realize that there's still discoveries to be had. And like, this is not Jocotoco Antpitta, for those who may not know, while it may be retiring in its nature, in its plumage and pad. Oh wow, there you go. Jay Jean's got an excellent
Antpitta plush toy. There we go. It's exactly what it looks like.
Wow, that is an impressive plush toy. But yeah, it's a striking bird, and it's when you see it, it's hard to believe that this thing, kind of flew under the radar from an ornithologist perspective for a long time, even if the locals were sort of like, that's Jocotoco,
Yeah.
It's really dramatic.
Oh, for sure. And, it's amazing that, birds, but we discover, and our scientists discover on our reserves and nearby, new reptiles, new lizards, new frogs, but constantly, new plants, constantly, new orchids, constantly, and even new birds. So in 2017, a researcher from Ecuador discovered a new hummingbird no one had seen before at the top of a mountain, again in southern Ecuador, but this is high elevation, Paramo, basically grassland, shrubland at the top of the Andes. A hummingbird that no one had ever seen before. It's called the blue-throated hill star. And so again, new bird discovered. We quickly protected its habitat, which was disappearing. And actually just last week, we won $1 million from the Indianapolis Zoo their Saving Species Challenge, the inaugural $1 million Saving Species Challenge, to expand that reserve, to work with the community. There's 80 to 100 of these hummingbirds left. That's all, right? It's tiny, tiny population. They nest in caves. We have to protect its habitat. We have to expand that habitat. We have to figure out where else where they are, how many there are, where they're nesting. But it's so yeah. Even in 2017, that's just 7 years ago. New hummingbird species discovered.
And my understanding is that was the first new species found in Ecuador since the Jocotoco was found, and so you guys here you are again. Taking up a real conservation challenge, because as you say, that is a bird with a small population and a small range. It looks like it's like 62 square acre range, or not acre, sorry, miles.
Miles. Yeah. It's something like 20 some square miles. I think 60 square kilometers if I'm doing the conversion right. Something like that. But yeah, tiny range, even smaller population, and the threats there. It's not anyone's direct fault, but agriculture, grazing, mining. Those are sorts of the things that are causing its habitat to shrink. And so we can buy land, we can protect that land, we can restore fields that have been overgrazed with the plant that it needs and the habitat that it needs to nest. And we can also work with the community so that they can manage their lands, both grazing, because that's important to their community, their culture, and their economy, but also have habitat for the hummingbird.
That's excellent. Yeah. Well, that bird is going to need all the help it can get, and that's amazing, and it's great. I do think zoos can get a bad rap a lot of the time from wildlife enthusiasts. But I don't know if people realize how much money they put into conservation. And that is really great news that you all were able to get that $1 million from the Indianapolis Zoo to save a species. It's really, really cool. So, yeah. And Renato, you have the chance as well to work with quite a number of endangered or extremely range-restricted birds in the Galapagos. But I am also curious, like, what you grew up in Puerto Ayora and Santa Cruz in the Galapagos. There, first of all, how many people are in Puerto Ayora, and what's it like to grow up in that kind of situation? I guess it's the only thing you know, right? But I'd be curious.
Yeah, to be honest, it has been just paradise. Since the beginning, I always knew that it's just, being in contact with all the animals, just being part of your daily life, and just being surrounded by them since I can remember. Currently, we have about 20 to 25,000 local residents here in Santa Cruz Island. There's 4 inhabited islands in the Galapagos. Santa Cruz holds the biggest population. Then we're followed by San Cristobal with about 6,000 people. Then Isabela Island with about 3,000 people. And then Floriana, which has a population of 160 individuals. So, it has been crucial to see all these changes, but I'm very proud and honored to be part of this place that I call home, and I'm glad to see how it has maintained its status and its conservation throughout the years.
Wow, I know a number of people that are traveling there right now as we speak in the Galapagos. I most of my trips there were in July and August, but it seems like October is a pretty popular time to be there as well. What I want to know, though, is like how far would you have to walk right now to encounter a land iguana?
They're everywhere. To be honest, recently I had to take a trip to the mainland for some work, and they're like I was walking towards the airplane, and you can see them like at the airports everywhere.
Yeah, Baltra, I remember.
And that's,
good spot.
Yeah, Baltra is a good spot. Sometimes I go biking around town, and there's tortoises around. That's, to be honest, even though I'm a local, I'm from here, and I'm used to it. I still pause and take a picture, and I'm amazed, mesmerized by this beauty that we have just meters away. It's everywhere we see. There's there's an endemic animal. Our office here in Santa Cruz is also by the ocean, and just walk by and go for a swim and see the sea lions, and really it's like living the dream. So it's a really good place to be.
Yeah, fascinating place to be able to walk to the Darwin. Is it the Darwin Biological Station and Research Station? I forget the name exactly, but that place is amazing. See all the where they're raising tortoises to release them into the wild, and there's finches all over the place. Right, it's right in town.
Correct. Yeah, that's just a few blocks away, and yeah, it's the work that we have done and through Jocotoco and the work that the Galapagos National Park enforces. We are able to maintain the Galapagos throughout the year. So our objective is to keep it that way and as preserved as possible, just so when people come, they get to see what I experienced since childhood.
Nice. How often do you get to see the pachay, as they call it, right? The Galapagos rail. That's a tricky one.
I don't know which one is the pachay.
It's like the black rail. Yeah, it's. I remember like the places that we would always see to be like Primicias Farm or.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're everywhere as well. It's quite often that you can see them.
Yeah, they're sneaky little guys. That was. I had my dad on that trip once, and I think that was the only endemic that I failed to show him. It was, and he like specializes in kind of studying the natural history of black rails. So I really wanted to get him that bird, and we dipped on it that year. But it's a cool one up in the Myconia zone. I think in Santa Cruz is a really good area for it. And most of
forest, yes.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Really interesting habitat. Now, most of you guys, you have a couple areas that you focus on, that Jocotoco focuses on within the Galapagos. You have the Los Petreles Reserve, right?
Correct.
And that's Floriana or San Cristobal? I can't remember.
That is in San Cristobal.
Okay. And there are I don't remember. Do you know how many nesting pairs of petrels there are on the various islands?
So the number is increasing due to our work. So we have seen a significant increase, and that has been something very, very rewarding for us. We do a lot of monitoring constantly, not only in San Cristobal, but also in Floriana and in Santa Cruz. So it just depends on the different habitats, but we can see that the numbers are improving.
Nice. And how's the medium tree finch doing there? Isn't that pretty much only found on Floriana? And I think it's getting trickier to find. Last I heard.
Yeah, so this is a very significant part of our emblematic project that we have, the ecological restoration of Floriana Island. So this is one of the species that we are hoping to start the reintroduction. Starting this year, the reintroduction phase begins. So we are slowly, based on the 12 different species that we're going to be introducing, we will be planning this accordingly.
Gotcha. Nice. And you're involved as well in the marine reserve that surrounds the islands and extends up to Cocos. Is that right?
Yeah. So I do help a bit with my we are a very small group here in the Galapagos program of Jocotoco, about like 15 people. So we help in all different projects that we have. With the marine reserve, that now it adds with Hermandad, which is this marine reserve between, there's 4 different countries involved. So we have Colombia, we have Panama, we have Ecuador, and we have Costa Rica. So with this marine corridor that we have allocated, we do a lot of work and surveillance and patrolling in this area. Recently, one of my boss recently was there in Cocos Island, also because we are supporting the eradication or control of deer. We have an overpopulation of deer in Cocos Island, so
Oh, wow.
there's a lot of work to do that to be done over there, and also with wild pigs.
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tall order there. And my understanding is the goats are largely gone now from Floriana. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. What I was mentioning is in Cocos Island that we're doing this project with the
With the deer.
eradication of deer.
So in Floriana, I think the medium. So we were talking about the medium tree finch. So that's one that's only on Floriana, and that's there right now. Tiny numbers, critically endangered. So we are rewilding Floriana. So just to talk about that project for a second, Floriana is the sixth largest island, population of 160 people. It's been hit hard by sort of like a loss of wildlife over the last 200 years. Like other islands in the Galapagos, it has its own endemic species that only exist there. And then, like the Galapagos, it has a lot of species that only exist in the Galapagos. And this is part of the study of where Darwin came up with the idea of evolution, and so this is an important place in the world, an important place in the Galapagos. But it's lost a lot of that wildlife diversity. In the 1800s, pirates and whalers, this sounds crazy, but they ate all of the Floriana giant tortoise. So like it was just a food source and literally ate all of them. There were none left. They also brought with them things like rats and mice. And so the rats and mice then ate the eggs and the young of a lot of the endemic birds and also, snakes. And so, a lot of wildlife just disappeared from Floriana. It's been hit pretty hard. Over the last 10 years, with a lot of other partners and the Galapagos National Park Directorate, Island Conservation, other organizations, we've been planning a project to rewild Floriana, to bring this wildlife back that disappeared. And it starts with removing those invasive species. So the goats are gone. In December of last year, intensive program to remove the rats and mice, the rodents that are there. We almost successful, not completely done yet. In fact, we have this very advanced monitoring system to help us find the locations of these rodents. Camera traps with AI programs that can ID, when they find a rodent. Drones that have thermal sensors so they can see them at night. Cameras, thermal cameras. Wow. And so we have this advanced monitor system still in place, and we detected just a month ago a few more rodents that we hadn't yet removed last year. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but we can remove these rodents. We can make the island safe again to bring back this wildlife, and that's what's going to happen over the next coming years. We're going to bring back 12 species that disappeared, lots of Darwin's finches, the Floriana mockingbird, which is considered Darwin's muse. So the Floriana mockingbird is a species that's just endemic to Floriana, but only lives right now on tiny little islands off the coast of Floriana where there's no rats and mice. So it's still alive. It's only on Floriana, but actually only on these small islands off the coast. We can make Floriana safe again for it to come back. Same with the Floriana racer, a snake. It's only alive on these small little islands off the coast. A vermilion flycatcher, a hawk, an owl, the Galapagos rail, the lava gull. We're going to bring all of those species back. And I want to mention the Floriana giant tortoise. So they thought that it was completely extinct, completely wiped out, until the discovery a few years ago. The Floriana giant tortoise must have been brought over to another island. What is it? It's the Wolf volcano. What's the island where they rediscovered the Floriana giant tortoise?
Wolf.
Oh, wow. Wolf. And that's one of the ones that's way up north, right? It's like Wolf and Darwin,
yes.
I think.
Darwin and Wolf, correct.
Wow. And so they figured these pirates, these whalers, must have trapped giant tortoises, brought them on their boats, let them loose in another island so that they could eat them later. Right?
Yeah, so thank God for the pirates.
Right. Well, if they didn't eat them all in the first place, that would have been nice too. But so they discovered that this isn't extinct, and that was sort of like this incredible moment where we realized we can bring back the Floriana giant tortoise, we can bring back Darwin's finches, we can bring back the Floriana mockingbird, we can save these species from extinction. And so that's a huge effort that we're undergoing right now. And I should mention, I'm a fundraiser. Did I say that in the beginning? So
no, I don't think so. Yeah.
I'm the director of Jocotoco US, and my job is principally raising money. So this is a big project of ours. It's the most important rewilding project on any populated island, really in the entire world. And we're trying to raise at least $2.8 million by the end of this year. We've already raised most of that, more than $2 million. That'll allow us to begin bringing back some of the species that have disappeared. And so if you can donate, please do.
Yeah, we got to get that. We'll get the link.
Okay, we'll get to that. All right.
In the show notes as well. Yeah, because that would be important. I mean, if folks can imagine, like I've seen Floriana mockingbird on that little champion island, out there, and you think, God, how are these things surviving? They've been pushed to the brink. There's, I don't know how many of them there are, if it's in triple digits or less, but not many. And then, like, the other thing you think about is, imagine if they were all over the island again. The petrels that are there, there's that as I recall, that island is a big one for Galapagos petrels. And it's actually one of the ones that I don't know if they breed there or not, but we would see Galapagos penguins sometimes at Floriana. I don't know if they nest there or not. I think of them more on the other side of the Bolivar Channel. But yeah, I mean, that's also that is a rare penguin.
And they all, and so even the birds like the petrel that is already on Floriana nests there, they do better without rats and mice. Even if they're not part of like the reintroduced to Floriana species that, disappeared. Getting rid of the rats and mice is going to make the Floriana or the Galapagos petrel reproduction better. And Galapagos penguins, north part of Floriana, they're there. I think they nest. I'm not sure. But it's it's going to have impacts on the wildlife that's already there, and that's going back to the medium finch that exists on Floriana. That's a species that's critically endangered. That those populations are going to go up as we do this work to remove the predators that are eating them.
Yeah, just to add to what Eugene is saying, what makes the Floriana project so unique, so special is, it's an inhabited island. So with 160 people living there, it was crucial in the 11 years of planning that we had them on our back, that we had them support us with this mission. And during the implementation phase that was conducted from October of last year to December, we applied about 400,000 kilos of bait with helicopters, and we conducted a huge logistical effort importing about 48 20-foot containers worth with bait from the United States to Floriana. We had to extend the pier to make it, because obviously they didn't have the infrastructure to receive such cargo. And receive the helicopters and everything else. So it was massive, a massive effort with the support of all our partners and everything else. But now we're seeing the results. There was a clear example of a local farmer that prior to the application of bait, he planted corn in 3 hectares of land. All of it, like 99% of it, it got eaten by the rats. He couldn't harvest anything. After the application of the bait, and now we see the results, and this applies to all the agricultural zone in Floriana Island. 100% of the crops are being harvested, and that just brings to the economy of the local people and incentivize them to support us and to continue with this project and working on this objective. So we are firsthand seeing not just the benefits in conservation, but also in the local economy of the people living in the island.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about how those invasive rodents would affect the crops for the people that are living there. Floriana is a special place too. My recollection is that the most beautiful marine iguanas are on that island as well. They're the red and green ones, and we used to call them Christmas iguanas when we were there because of the red and green. And the other thing that I think, am I right that there's actually a natural spring on Floriana? Isn't there a natural water source up there?
Yes, that's a really important part. Floriana Island is one of the few islands in the archipelago of Galapagos that has a natural water source, so potable, drinkable water for everybody to consume. So yeah, that's another huge factor. And obviously, throughout the years of planning and mitigation, we apply that this important aspect to protect that water source as well.
And it's given the island some interesting history as well. We talked about the pirates, and if you have a chance to go visit, you can go up into the highlands and see these old pirate caves, and then there's areas where, as I recall, there were some nefarious goings on between a couple of the families that lived up there. There was apparently there was some mysterious deaths that could not be accounted for. This is going back into like the 1800s or earlier, I think. So it's nothing recent, but yeah, that water source is important, for more reasons than one, but lends the island quite an interesting history as well. Cool place. Yeah.
Correct. That is accurate. So there's a lot of history. In fact, it was the first inhabited island of the Galapagos. So yeah, it dates back to many years ago. But the water source is still there, even though the population has increased. With the current population of 160 people, they still maintain and protect the water source, and that makes it, plus the other factors, a very unique island to be.
I still haven't been myself, so I started working for Jocotoco last December, and so I visited Ecuador multiple times, multiple reserves of ours in Ecuador, but still not the Galapagos, still not Floriana. Trying to convince my boss to send me to Floriana. It's crucial that I see Floriana so that I can understand the local context. It's definitely not about bird watching for me when I go to Floriana.
You might have to make that a little bit more convincing when you make that pitch again, Eugene.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is. It certainly helps to be on the ground, right, and see everything for yourself. For sure. But man, what a cool place! And the one thing I wanted to ask about, I'm not sure if you know about this or not, Eugene, isn't there a reserve on the mainland that Jocotoco manages that has fairly reliable spectacled bear sightings?
Oh, yeah. So you're referring to Chicana. Several of our reserves have spectacled bear, but Chicana is the place that you can see it more often than not. And so it's Chicana is relatively close to Quito. It's in the Paramo. It's near, I guess it'd be east of Quito, still high up in the mountains. And so what's cool about Chicana is it is also home to, at sometimes, about 30% of all of Ecuador's Andean condors. And so what the cool thing that you can do is it's right along the main road. There's a large ravine, road on one side, ravine, then the reserve, ridge, Paramo vegetation along this ridge. You show up there early in the morning, and that's when the roosting Andean condors are taken off. So first you get to see the condors soar over this ravine and soar over the Paramo and soar over the Andean mountains. But in this same ravine, depending on the time of the year, but that's where you can see the spectacled bear. It's just very clear views right across from the road. So my first visit to Ecuador, this is like a very special story for me. I'd already visited a lot of our southern reserves, and I, picked up a ton of birds, hundreds, maybe 200-300 new species for me. And I was coming back to Quito the next day. This is after about 2 weeks in southern Ecuador, going back to Quito the next day, and then going to Chicana the next morning. I was coming back from the southern reserves with 1,399 birds on my life list. So that was what I got. And I knew the next morning, all probability was that the very first bird I was going to see the next morning was going to be the Andean condor. And that's exactly what happened. Andean condor ended up being number 1,400 for me.
Wow.
And going back to the bear, at the very same time, there was a spectacled bear right underneath along the ridge. Very clear views, and each spectacled bear has a different pattern on its face, right? So the pattern is you can identify a spectacled bear by the pattern on its face, kind of like a fingerprint. And the spectacled bear that we saw that day, they had previously called Batman. There's something about it. It's kind of had like this unibrow look that I guess that for them resembled Batman. And so it's a bear that they know. They call it Batman. And then a year or two after they named it Batman, that same bear showed up to that same spot with cubs. And so then they realized, well, it's not Batman, it's probably Batwoman. And so now they call it, because it's got these spectacles that basically form a unibrow, they now call it Frida. So like Frida Kahlo. So that was Chocana. That's a place you can visit, and it's near Quito. It's near Antisana volcano as well.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that. So now that you mentioned that where it's located, I actually realized that I've put together a trip where some friends of mine actually saw spectacled bear right there, and that's one of my most wanted mammals. So I need to go and do that and visit that spot.
Yeah. It was I'm 1 for 2. First time I went, yes. Second time I went, no. So
yeah. I feel like there's no place as far as I know that you can go and have like 100%, with that animal, and probably that place is the best place in the world to see them. I would imagine.
I think so. Yeah, and I think seasonally. So I don't know the correct season, but the first time I went was in March, and they were saying that it's almost a given that you'll see it in that time of the year. And then when I went back in, I think it was July, they were saying it's almost a given that you won't. So it's definitely seasonally based on the available food it's eating. So there's a way to plan it, so you're more likely to see it than not. But the viewing platform, if it's there, you're going to see it, because the viewing platform's right off the road, and you get a view of the entire ridge, condors and bears and all.
And yes, just to add to what you're saying, the unique aspect of all our reserves is that we have local people working in them. So like they're familiar, they live there their entire lives. And in regarding the lodges, all of them basically, I don't remember which lodge it was, but it's only women, like native women working in them, and everything that it gets generated by the lodges, it goes back into the organization. So it's like a full circle for us in a different way to get some more funding.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was looking on your site. You guys have a little pie chart on your staff page that shows that about close to half of your staff are reserve guards, about a quarter are field staff, or maybe those numbers. Yeah, I guess that's close to right. And then close to about 20% is office and admin staff, and then you have a handful of restoration staff and a handful of international staff. But all told, while you make it's like you got close to 100 or so people working at Jocotoco. Does that sound about right, Jay Jean?
Yeah, those numbers sound right, and it's more than 100 people at this point, and I think you're right. Like more than half are literally working in our reserves, and I think that's something we pride ourselves on. When we buy land, we're always expanding our reserves. That's certainly been the model for 25 years, and now we're thinking about how to do this regionally. When we protect land, we really protect it. We have people from those communities working there as guards, making sure that no one's coming in poaching orchids or cutting down a tree or hunting spectacled bear, maintaining the trails. So it's really, we say boots on the ground. We have people on our reserves protecting the reserves that we protect.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot to manage and keep funding up for, to make sure that all these areas are actually protected and that the wildlife is secure. So, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and just something to add. Recently, we had what's the word in English of this? Like a meeting, an encounter, annual meeting or something.
Like the annual retreat of all of our staff.
Yeah, annual retreat. And so basically everybody from all these 18 reserves and different programs of Jocotoco nationwide, we met in Tumbes, which is near Quito. And I had the honor to go with some members of my team from the Galapagos, some from the Petrels Reserve in San Cristobal, and then part of the team from Santa Cruz. we got the chance to meet everybody else from the different reserves nationwide, and get to know them, get to see the work that they do, and that really empower us, to be more integrated, and to know even more of the work that we're doing in different fronts, in different reserves, but with the same objective. So that was really, really powerful 3-day encounter that we had.
Nice. That sounds amazing, with an amazing group of folks, and I imagine it would have been quite a lot of fun as well. Maybe some late evenings and good times by all. I hope.
Yeah. It was great. It was some dancing, some socializing, getting to know each other, some great activities. But the main objective was just to get more acquainted. And even though we're working in different reserves, the objective is the same, and our drive is the same. So it was really, really powerful time, and a really good retreat.
That's great. Given what you guys do, having FaceTime with your colleagues, I'm sure it counts for a lot. So.
I live up here in the U.S., so I live in Bethesda, right outside of D.C., and so I kind of live vicariously through all of the Jocotoco staff down in Ecuador. We have this WhatsApp chat with all the staff, and so every day I get these photos of just like these incredible places, these rainforests and cloud forests. Galapagos Island, the ocean, get photos, just from that morning, a spectacled bear or a jaguar or, a long-wattled umbrella bird or just a new species of orchid. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible what we have going on down there. But yeah, I missed the encuentro, but I saw the photos and it looked awesome.
That was fun. We're hoping to do the next one here in the Galapagos.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So what's for this hill star? I wanted to mention too. I get our travel company is Hill Star Nature. A lot of folks don't know that there's actually a hummingbird called hill star. There's actually more than one hummingbird. I think there is 9 species in 2 genera. This blue-throated hill star is the more diverse genus, more species, Oreotrochilus, and there are 7 of those. I think so far, actually, on Hill Star Nature trips, I think the only one we've actually the only hill star that we've recorded on a hill star trip, I believe, is Rufus Gaped in Colombia. So we've got some work to do, but we're still a young company.
Go to Chicana, the Ecuadorian hill star.
Yeah,
is there, and then obviously blue-throated Cerro de Arcos. We have a reserve. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee to see the blue-throated hill star.
Okay, that's actually what I was wondering, is if that reserve is actually accessible for birders to go up and see this amazingly rare bird.
Yeah, for sure. You have to organize it through us because it's protected. There's fencing to make sure that there's cattle not getting in. We have reserve guards up there. But you can go there. Tour groups go up there. It's a day trip basically from our Buenaventura Reserve. So we have a lodge in Buenaventura, and then about a 2.5-hour drive up the mountain. You get to the Cerro de Arcos Reserve. Go with us or other guides, and I should say, there's no such thing as a guarantee, but like 99% chance that you're going to see the blue-throated hill star at this reserve. And there's patches of its, I think, what is it? There's a flower that it's nectar source that you hang out at certain patches of this flower, and it comes in. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. I was trying to remember what that flower was as well. The Chuquiragua.
Chuquiragua, exactly.
Yeah.
Chuquiragua. It's got this orange flower. It's one of these Paramos shrub plants. It's really beautiful. Nice. And we're doing some restoration now, trying to plant a lot of the species that have been, because of the overgrazing or the burning, disappeared, that are the food sources for the wildlife up there, but including the Chuquiragua. What did you say? Chuquiragua? Did I say that right? I always pronounce it wrong too.
Yeah, it sounded correct from what I was reading.
Sounded correct, yeah. But planting a lot of that to establish habitat that's been lost. Yeah, it's there's a lodge up there that isn't run by us, but you can also stay overnight right outside of our reserve. And that lodge it feels like you're in like the French Alps, in my opinion. You're at the tops of these mountains. It's cold, it's windy, the clouds are blowing over. It's an extreme environment. Craggy rocks at the tops of these Andean peaks, surrounded by what look like maybe Scottish moors. It's wet, it's cold. You see the grasses waving in the wind for as far as you can see across these valleys and these mountains. And there's this cool lodge up there. It's like this wooden lodge with wood fires. That it's fun to stay there too. It's an extreme fun place to be.
Yeah, I love extreme landscapes, and Paramo is just such cool habitat as it is. In Renato, in the Galapagos, is there a part of the Galapagos you personally have yet to visit yet that you're keen to see? Have you been up to Darwin and Wolf Islands?
Yeah, so I was one of the lucky ones because, as I mentioned, my family has been involved in tourism since the 60s, and my father was a tour guide, naturalist guide. So in order for me to hang out with him, I had to go on these cruise ships every time. So I've been to all the islands hundreds of times since I was little. But recently with Jocotoco, we have a campsite. We have a special project of the pink iguana in Volcan Sierra Negra. Um, so in Isabel Island. So yeah, I had the opportunity to go there by helicopter. So it was a really unique experience, and just the moment we landed and seeing the pink iguanas and all the tortoises and the crater just right in front of you, that was amazing.
Is that one of the active volcanoes there still?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's also a good place to see the Galapagos martin, if I remember, which is that along with the Galapagos rail, I think are kind of the two trickiest ones usually on that route. And I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with the mangrove finch. That one is, really range restricted. Basically, I think it's on the Bolivar Channel. I don't even know if there's any left on Fernandina, but there was one little patch of them left on Isabella. I think that was one also where there was like less than 100 left or something. I don't know if you guys have heard how those are doing or not.
I don't know personally. I mean, they're being wiped out though by it's like a mosquito parasite, right?
Parasitic fly, right?
Parasitic fly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar either, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's not an area that most people can get to these days. I was lucky to be able to get there a lot back in the trips that I did a few years ago. We actually would go see them almost every time, but I don't think that's been allowed.
The place that I mentioned that I went recently is Volcan Wolf. That's the place that I went with Jocotoco. And actually, our CEO with Martin, we had the chance to go, and yeah, I think that was the place that I haven't visited before. So this is every other place in the Galapagos I think I've been to.
Wow! And are you into scuba, Renato, as well?
Not much, not really. Just snorkel and just something more.
Gotcha. Because I think my recollection is Darwin Wolf, I think, are one of the best places for whale sharks.
Correct. And hammerhead sharks and all of that. It's just a sanctuary for that. So, yeah.
I was just this is not a Jocotoco or Galapagos story, although it's related. So I was just in Hawaii, in Oahu, and we did a snorkel off the north coast of Oahu. And it was basically a snorkel with sharks, and the majority of the sharks were it wasn't chum. It was just like the sharks were there. They're swimming in underneath the boat. Just pick a location where they're swimming in these deep waters right off the coast, and a lot of Galapagos sharks is swimming. You could see them circling,
wow.
And then tiger sharks.
Oh my
so we
God.
had two tiger sharks come in and swim around the boat. And I was surprised they kept us in the water. We just swam with tiger sharks for like 45 minutes. I want to get to the Galapagos. I want to get the Wolf and Darwin to do some snorkeling with whale sharks, which would be less scary than tiger sharks, but maybe more impressive.
Yeah, Alvaro actually on his last trip there was detailing on the pod how they were swimming around and all of a sudden they realized there was a tiger shark, and I guess their folks were like, "Yeah, let's everybody back on board. Let's try another spot here." So, pretty. That'd be a wild experience.
Yeah, it was.
I've only ever seen one whale shark, and it was in the Bolivar Channel there, which is pretty cold water. And I remember I actually thought it was a whale at first. And then we cruised up on it slowly, and I was like, "Oh my God, look at this thing." It was amazing. It was a big one. It was a big whale shark. Really impressive.
Yeah.
Cool thing. Nice. Well, Renato, what's up for you the rest of this week? What are you focused on from a Jocotoco perspective? The rest of this week, rest of this year, what is your the thing that you're most engaged with, and how can folks help you out with the work you're doing?
Okay, so there's a lot of work to be done, as JG mentioned it. We continue right now. We're in the phase of starting the reintroduction, but in order to do that, we have to guarantee that the eradication phase has been successful. So my teammates, they're on site doing a lot of work, and sometimes they walk in like 10, 12 days shifts, about 300 kilometers. So yeah, there's a lot of physical work that they do on the ground. After that, we start with the phase of reintroduction of these 12 endemic species that were lost in Floriana. So we will bring them back, bring them home. So yeah, as JG mentioned it, we want to get some funds to be able to attain that goal. Because with the funding, we can reach that. Obviously, if we don't have the sources, it's hard for us to pay the team to do their work and to pay for materials and everything that we have to do to conduct a project of this magnitude. The Floriana project is huge and it's very expensive. So any source of support that we can get, it will be greatly appreciated.
Excellent.
And just as an example, I mentioned, a bigger, fundraising, trying to raise $2.8 million. We have an even more urgent need. And one of the things are this advanced monitoring system that we have that it worked and it found rats that got through our first phase of eradication. And so we need to raise $350,000 by the end of this year so that we can eradicate those rats. And that will then allow us to move on with the reintroductions. And so I think that, if anyone's out there listening who wants to donate, that's the most important thing right now is, we can bring back wildlife to this island that disappeared generations ago, wildlife that, influenced Darwin's thinking about evolution, wildlife that only exists right there. But we need to do this first, and we need you to help.
Yeah, that is well said, Jay Jean, and yeah, I mean, I really admire what you guys do. I think anybody that is familiar with Jocotoco, which is a lot of people, but not everybody, should know that you guys are fighting the battle on the front lines. You're doing the work in some of the most iconic biodiversity hotspots in the world. You're doing them some of the rarest birds in the world, and big megafauna like spectacled bears. That's probably more people have seen spectacled bear at that Jocotoco Reserve than any place else in the world. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for being here today. We will have links in the show notes where folks can find you both, and find areas where they can make donations and provide support. So thanks both for being here today.
And one more thought, one more pitch. Obviously, the audience is birders. Travel to Ecuador. It's awesome. Our lodges are awesome. We have a private company, a travel agency, basically, that organizes tours for Jocotoco called Joco Tours. Look them up. If you're going to Ecuador, you do it through them, because everything that you do through Jocotours then comes back to Jocotoco to do conservation. Ecuador, I don't know the total number of bird species at this point, the exact number, but it's like 1,700. It's an incredibly high number. It's one of the most of any country in the entire world.
It's one of the few mega diverse countries, I think, in terms of birds. Yeah.
And of those other mega diverse countries, it's one of the smallest. So you can see a lot of birds in a smaller amount of space than almost anywhere else in the world. And just as a data point, Jocotoco's reserves are home to 10% of the world's total species of birds, and it's only 0.008% of the Earth's surface. So come visit us.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you guys both for being here. Renato, J. Jean, really appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.